Welcome to Vibe Tribe. We are so excited to have you here. So today our whole focus is on prepping for a do-over because tomorrow is here today. And here's what I mean. So you guys, if you haven't watched it, Back to the Future is a story of Marty McFly, who is your typical 80s American teenager. And he has this mentor named Dr. Emmett Brown, who accidentally sends him back to 1955 in a plutonium-powered DeLorean time machine. And once there, Marty runs into his parents, and he interrupts their first meeting. So heck, maybe they wouldn't have met, and maybe he wouldn't be born. So he must get his parents to meet, fall in love, and kiss at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, or he will never be born. And then even further, Marty must do this by 10:04 next Saturday night when this bolt of lightning will strike the clock tower, and then it will propel him back to the future. So back in 1985, when we were sitting in the movie theater, eating our popcorn, watching this show, it sounded just like science fiction, right? Pretty impossible. But now we know not really. It's more of a sneak peek. So was this science fiction or more of a spoiler alert, right? Foretelling of what's to come. By going back in time, they could make changes to their future. So similarly, but in real life, and this is what William's beautiful article was about, there is a scientist named Ellen Langer, and she and her research team created this experiment called the counterclockwise study of 1979. And what they did was they set up two groups of men, okay, and they had replicated a world that was 20 years back. So say it was 1959. They had this whole hotel, everything was set up as if it was absolutely 1959. And so the experimental group and then the control group. Okay, we'll start with the experimental group. So they were to act as if they lived there in the present, and they spoke as if this exact experience was now, okay? And they were to write an autobiography as if it were 1959. And they exchanged photos, and they lived in this hotel, in this replicated world for a week. And they had this experiment, okay? Then later we take the control group, and they lived in the same replicated world a week later. Except when they were there, they acted like this was all past tense. And so when they wrote their bios and they had these photos, it was of them current self. They reminisced of the past, but it was a different experience, okay? Because the experiment group was there. The control group was more like pretending this was back in the day. Like, you know, when you go to a drive-in burger joint and it feels like it's kind of reminiscent. So what were the results? Well, both groups became a little bit younger, right? But the experimental group, they improved on so many measures. They actually improved with their physical ability, their health, and their intelligence. And they even were told that they looked younger by people that had no idea that they participated in this experiment. So Langer concluded that it is not our physical selves that limit us, but instead it's our belief systems. It is our constricting mindsets. It is about our physical limits, health, and well-being, and our social construct of what aging means. So her work proved that you could reverse this. I mean, if you could get stronger and look younger and all this just by living a week, acting as if, she calls it the psychology of possibility. Finding out what's possible in achieving your health rather than what is universally accepted to be true, okay? So here's some themes that she uncovered. One is the mind-body connection. So our thoughts and our mental state directly affect our physical health, and that we must adopt a younger mindset so that you can improve your physical health and vitality. And one of our members, actually, who's an old client of mine, she told me the other day, just this weekend, that her daughter, who's a trainer, said, you can't get stronger when you get older. And I was like, oh, that's not true. I mean, I couldn't do a pull-up a year and a half ago, and now I can. And there's this other lady I love to follow named Willie Murphy, who started lifting 5-pound dumbbells when she was 73. And then when she was 77, she could deadlift 220. So that's not true. The second theme is the power of possibility. So when you believe in what's possible, it will lead to tangible results, right? So if you can believe it, you can achieve it. We know this to be true. And an example here is Roger Bannister. They thought they thought it was impossible to run a sub 4-minute mile. It was said that it was physically impossible until one day Roger Bannister, boshed that myth. He ran a sub 4. So what happened after? One at a time, over and over. Men were running a sub 4 because if it was possible for Roger, it was possible for them. And they prove this to be true. The next theme is mindfulness. So we want to be here now, be mindful of everything you do, everything you don't do, and notice your environment. Be cognizant of new things, new experiences, and be very present. We're going to go into more detail on this in a minute. The last one is challenging assumptions. So we want to question societal norms, right? Question everything. When people tell you something, maybe it's true for them, but it doesn't have to be true for you. All right. We have these assumptions about aging, health, things like this. Like you might think that, well, now that I'm 60 or now that I'm 65, and you have these limiting beliefs that you think you can't do. Like my friend's daughter, the trainer said, oh, you can't get stronger when you're older. And I know that's not true. So I hope you do too. And most women my age, I'm going to be 59. Most women my age don't do CrossFit. But I started because my gym closed and I had nothing else. I didn't know what to do 4 years ago, if you know what I mean. So I found this gym and it was just like, okay, because you are the creator of your life and you get to choose what you do. So when you integrate these practices into your daily life, you will foster, if you choose to do so, a more mindful, healthy approach to living. And these are in line with the principles outlined in this counterclockwise study. So we want to bring this back to GodSpark, right? That's what we like to do here. And vision, intention, and action. So when you set the vision for yourself and you decide, that's your intention, is to decide, and you draw the line in the sand and then you start taking action. So we're going to play a quick little game. Now imagine yourself back 20 years ago. Where did you like to hang out? Maybe it was 30 years ago. Maybe it's 40, but just choose a memory that you have of a time in your life that you were just overjoyed. You were happy. What were you doing for fun? What was your favorite song? I looked it up like back in 1983 when I graduated from high school. It was like Billie Jean and Beat It by Michael Jackson. Just so much fun music that year. What kind of car did you drive? I had a Ford Escort. Who did you hang out with? Who were your friends? Were you married? Have a girlfriend, boyfriend? Can you see this image fully in your mind's eye? And the things that you were doing, were you athletic? Did you enjoy going to the beach or to the mountains or to the lake? When we were young, we did a lot of fun stuff that before we had all these massive responsibilities. So now, because we're going to do the experiment of this counterclockwise, can you incorporate these into your daily life and start doing them again? So you can start being as if you were that age again. So here's some tips that I'm going to go through quickly before we get to the burning question. So practicing mindfulness, super duper important. We're on autopilot, right? We always take the same path to the store or to wherever we're going. So it's about really noticing, being a noticer, and notice new things and just tweaking things a little bit. All right. So when you're eating, notice your food and how it tastes and how it feels. When you're walking, I walk unplugged. Like I just like to listen to the birds and notice what's around me with gratitude. And your language impacts your reality so much. Stop saying my blank, like my disease, whatever, my cancer, my diabetes, my heart disease. Do you want to own it or do you want to release it? So I always say the instead of my. Next one is challenge assumptions. So just because somebody tells you something doesn't mean it's true for you. You can create your own truth. All right. So reframe all of the assumptions that people are telling you. You need to create your own reality, what is true for you. And just because you're diagnosed with something doesn't mean you have to accept it. There is a great example of somebody that was diagnosed with a disease who didn't have it. The doctor flipped the charts, and then somebody who had the disease and said he was clear. And guess what? A year later, the one that didn't have it believed he did and sadly passed away. The one who did have it thought he was fine and healthy and strong and went on to live for a long time afterwards. So you create your own reality. Adopt a growth mindset. So I have held by the principle, constant and never ending learning. I love learning new things. And, when you pick something, don't think you have to just go all out. Just take baby steps, learn a little bit at a time so you don't overwhelm yourself, and just stay open-minded to what is possible for you. Engage in healthy behaviors. You've heard me over and over talking about physical activity as well as healthy eating. I used to teach senior aerobics, and I know that a lot of towns have senior facilities that offer things if you're a senior or if you're not, but it was so fun to be able to be with them and watch them really create change for their bodies. And just being mindful with your food. Try a food you've never tried before that you know is good for you. Come to Waves of Wellness. Listen to Dr. Gloria's cooking show. That's really fun. And know that one man's food is another man's poison. So just check in with yourself to see what feels best in your body. Foster positive relationships. Okay. So you can do this here's a funny thing. So a long time ago, maybe 8 years ago, there was a study and it said, what made people live longer, healthier? Okay. So we're talking 90 plus, but healthy and vibrant and alive. And it's not your exercise, it's not your food, it is strong relationships with family and friends and a strong sense of community. And we are so lucky here at QHS because we have a very strong sense of community here. So it's really important to have these positive relationships. 2 more, stress management. Lucky for you, we have that HHS meditation that is off the hook. And we have Key, which is so helpful to encourage you to practice meditation. And we also have yoga. So I've done a little bit of yoga, stretching, mobility work, all so good for you. And last is stay curious and engaged. So we have a lot of ways here at QHS for you to be engaged. We have something Monday through Friday, every day where you can be engaged. But really fun and important is hobbies. So I want to encourage all of you guys to engage in a hobby that you did back in your day, back on when you visualized yourself younger. Maybe you painted, maybe you played a musical instrument. Maybe you were speaking a different language, a foreign language, but find one thing that's creative for you, okay? And it is possible, we know it's possible to make these health improvements just by visualizing your younger self and notice what you were doing and feel as if. So if you were 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years younger, empowering yourself to create a life that you might prefer, a feeling inside your body that feels better, okay? Because you have the power to create whatever you want. So the burning question is, what changes did you already make knowing you were getting older? And what changes will you make knowing that more is possible because you have a QT wave? And how has your decision-making ability, your mind or your imagination changed since receiving your QT wave?